Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this special edition of Focus on Liberia we call Between the Headlines. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In this edition of Between the Headlines, I have the honor to have Dr. Clarence K. Moniba, who is running for the presidency in our country from the Liberia National Union, that's LENU. He's the political leader. Dr. Moniba, welcome to the show.
No, thank you very much for having me. I'm happy and excited to be able to talk about where we want to take our country and how not just one person or one political leader, but all of us can work together to truly transform our country. So thank you very much for having me on, and I look forward to our conversation.
Thank you for coming. And you're in Monrovia now. I mean, how on the campaign? No, they say it's outreach because campaign season.
Awareness. Don't get me in trouble.
Right. How is the outreach so far?
The outreach is positive. I feel very good about where we are right now, to be very frank with you. I think it's going to be very important over the next 4 months, and more importantly for the Liberian people to understand that they need to listen to all of the candidates' message. They need to look at our backgrounds, what we have done for this country. We need to put aside now the men being here for a long time or sympathy vote or the men popular. They need to look at who they think and truly believe can transform this country from an educational standpoint, from a visionary standpoint, from the character standpoint. So I think this election is going to be the most important elections in Liberia's history. That's no question about it. And so, I'm very happy of what we've been doing. Today, I've had 2 different engagements. I have this engagement right now, so I'm very appreciative of that. But I'm very happy where we are. We have some committed people all over the country who are going door to door, village to village, talking about a new Liberia, which is our platform. And so thank you very much, and I'm happy with the awareness.
Thank you. And you just mentioned what I was about to add, a new Liberia. What does that mean?
The Liberia we have, let's be very honest and fair with ourselves. The Liberia we have right now is not good enough. There's no other way to put it. The Liberia we have, the Liberia that us as Liberians live in, is not good enough for the Liberian people. It's not good enough for anybody. And so because of that, we want a new Liberia where we share our resources of this country equitable with all of the 5 million people of Liberia. Right now in Liberia, let's be frank, there's only very few people who benefit from the true resources of this country. If you're in government, if you're your pa, your ma, your somebody in government, then all of a sudden you benefit from the resources of Liberia. If you are not, you suffer. We have our children going to schools to sit down on dirt floors. We have hospitals, dozens and hundreds of hospitals all around Liberia, where there's no medication on the shelf, there's no trained doctors, there's no trained nurses there. So the people of Liberia are truly suffering. We all know that. It's not nothing to say. But I think when we talk about a new Liberia, we have to start to define the vision and the Liberia that we want, which includes, better hospitals, better schools, making sure that our children, the young people of this country, have technical and vocational training. We have to be talking about situations where we have better roads and we have competent government officials and people who go to jail if they ever steal Liberia people money. This is the new Liberia that we are trying to push forward, and it's going to happen. We as Liberians just have to believe that it will happen and that there will be a group of leaders who come to this country and truly make the transformational change that every single Liberian deserves.
Right. And anytime you talk about new Liberia, meaning there is an old Liberia, right? So where do you draw the line here? All the things that require Liberia being new, when they all start? Were we always this way?
Unfortunately, we have been, there have been some good in our past. I'm not going to say everything in Liberia's past has been bad, but we also need to be very honest with ourselves in terms of our history. For we have been around since 1847. It's just recently that we even started to talk about true development outside of Monserrate, outside of Monrovia. If you go to Sino, you go to River G, you go to places in the southeast, you would think you are actually walking into 1847. There's been no difference. People are still living in thatch houses. People still don't have indoor plumbing, indoor toilets, electricity. So you already know and understand that whatever little progress has been made in Monserrate or in Monrovia has not gone to the outer regions. By the time you get in a car and go 15, 20, 30 minutes outside of the city, you see abject poverty. The same poverty that you even see in Monrovia here. So the old Liberia is something that there has been some very good people have served in this country in terms of government. I take my father, Dr. Harry F. Moniba, who was the former vice president under Dole, as one of the people who truly served this country. I'm proud of his record and what he has done. And there has been so many other people like that who have served this country. But yet still, it has not been good enough to truly transform this country. When you look at Ghana, when you look at Sierra Leone, you look at Ivory Coast, all of them are leaving us behind. And they don't have anything more special than us. They don't have any more smarter people than us. It's just the leadership. And this is the leadership now that we want to provide for the Liberian people.
And just to be clear, let's go into a little bit of history here. Some say, and there are some markers people are putting down. Some say, well, the issue started with 1822, and people call that a false start. They say there were problems in the beginning, so the foundation it was built on shaky foundation. Some say things were really good until William V.S. Tubman, whom they called a dictator, came into the picture. And he stayed there for 27 years and changed the way things because before then, Liberia was able to, our legislature was able to even impeach a sitting president, but it was Tubman whose fault. Some say, oh no, things were all the way better until 1980 coup. Some say, no, it's during the war. Because we have to understand the problem we're trying to solve here and the origin, where will you draw the line to say, well, this is the period things really started going bad?
The very foundation of our country, has been problematic in some ways. Like I said, I don't want it to seem like everything in Liberia's past has been bad. But when we actually look at the development of Liberia, when we actually look at who we were educating in Liberia, the fact that education did not really reach to the hinterlands, to people in all the different counties. When you look at the road development that we are in 2023, and there is still no road to the southeastern region of the country. Right now, as we're talking, people are stuck and sleeping in mud in Grand Jita, going towards Sino and Maryland and counties and places like that. So you already know that the development has never gone to those places for 200 years. So the very foundation of what we have been built on has been very shaky. So when we talk about a new Liberia, it has to encapsulate, it has to include all of Liberia, all of the 5 million people who are living in Liberia. We can no longer say we are developing Liberia and only develop Tubman Boulevard. We can no longer say we are developing Liberia and only go clean Broad Street. We have to be very honest and holistic when we talk about we are developing Liberia. We have to be able to make sure the community college in Nimba has appropriate teachers, has science labs, has libraries. We have to be able to make sure that there are technical and vocational schools that are in Lofa. We have to make sure that there are proper agriculture projects when you go to Grand Bassa, and training and development and electricity and nice hotels and restaurants and tourism. The new Liberia that we want is possible. That's what I want to make clear to the Liberian people. And it's so very difficult when I talk to the people of Liberia as we are going through our awareness phase right now. I ask them one thing, and that is to believe that a better Liberia is possible. Believe that a new Liberia is possible. Believe that there are good Liberians in this country who want to see good for this country. Once we start to believe as a country, as a nation, once we start to understand that the life we have right now is not good enough, then you will start to see that we will begin to rise, for a lack of better words. We'll begin to catch up to countries such as Ghana. Why is it that Liberians are not going to Ghana for vacation? Why is it now that Liberians are living here going to Ivory Coast for medical treatment? We can do that here in Liberia. We just need somebody with the vision. We need somebody with the qualifications and the experience. And we need somebody with the love for country who will be able to implement.
Right. Okay. So this love of country, this vision, there have been 24 other persons before you, if you are, fortunate enough to be there. Why they didn't do it, and why you think you can be the one to do that?
That's a very good question and very interesting question. But at the end of the day, Liberia is going to be a great country one day. One day, Liberia is going to be a great country. So if we know that and believe that, so then you already know that there will be a set of leaders who will come to begin to make this country great. What my argument is that greatness should start right now. And so that's why I'm running for president, to ensure that we waste no longer. We don't waste no more time. A lot of people see me and say, oh, Dr. Moniba, you qualify for the job. But, since that your first time running, wait till 2029. We do not have time to wait till 2029 to begin development. Do we know and understand how many people are going to die in hospitals for waiting? If Liberia wants change, we have to begin that change right now. We cannot continue to wait. So the 24 people who have served Liberia in the presidential position, I'm sure they felt like they did the best they could. But at the end of the day, Liberia is not the country that we deserve. It's not the country that we need or we want. We have to be able to develop it from the ground up. And that means making sure that every single Liberian child has the ability to go to a proper school where the teacher is not only getting paid $40 a month, where there are libraries, where the student has food to eat in school, where they don't have to sit down on the floor, but they can actually sit down in proper classrooms with indoor running water, where the teachers are paid properly, where there's agriculture gardening in the schoolyards. There's so many things we have to be able to do in this country. So the 24 people, yes, they contributed as best as they can. But at the end of the day, we have to start to speed up the development in Liberia. We have to make sure that the resources of this country is shared by all people. And that's why I'm running for president, to ensure that we change the face of leadership in Liberia.
So why William Tubber, Samuel Doe, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Charles Taylor, why these people couldn't do it, and how you different? What will you do differently?
In terms of why they couldn't do it, like I said, I think everybody, we can look at each one in its individual case. When you look at President Doe, I think at that time we really started to focus on, let's even go back to Tauber when he talked about from mat to mattresses. But I think at that time, especially before you got to 1980s, a lot of the development, Liberia was doing very well. Even when you look at the 60s, we were on par with Singapore. But that development was not necessarily nationwide. The development was truly, in the city, in Montserrado and places like that.
But so, Dr. Moniba, let me hold you right there, because we had like the Lutheran doing so well in Lofa, especially the Bandi region. We have the churches based on, because they were not out of the blue, right? It was based on government agreement, some agreement, government encouraged them. So
government encouragement, but not government work. So
Right.
again, we don't want to really focus on, what governments haven't done in the past. I just want us to understand that the development we have had in Liberia has not been good enough for the Liberian people.
Okay.
Uh,
And you
and,
want to change that?
and we have to change that collectively. If one person say they will change it, then they're lying to you. Every single Liberian, we now have to have the mindset to be able to sit down and say, what can we do to empower Liberia? Because even if I become president right now, if God was to bless me, I'm not going to go to Foya, I'm not going to go to Greenville or Barclayville and be sweeping or be in a church and fighting, fighting corruption or anything in this particular church or organization. Every single Liberian has to have the understanding that we all have a part to play to develop this country. And so I just want to lead that vision. I want to lead the country so that we can change our mindset in how we are going to develop this country, understanding that every single Liberian has a part to play.
Thank you. So let's go to some of your record. You previously served as a chairman of the board of the Liberia Electricity Corporation, LEC. Can you tell us your achievement during that time? And what were some of the challenges? What prevented you from taking electricity to my hometown in Sino? And what advice can you give to the people there now? So let's talk about your records at LEC.
LEC, I'm very proud of the work we're able to do at LEC. We have to understand that Liberia, we were devastated. Everybody were devastated by the civil war that happened. And so LEC, it takes billions of dollars. And I will say that again, billions of dollars will be to actually bring electricity to all of the people in Liberia. This estimate show that it will be over $3 billion if we want every single Liberian to have electricity. So when I was at LEC on the board and also as chairman of LEC, I'm proud of the work we've done, including making sure that the cross-border electricity was done, which is in Maryland, Grand Jita, and Nimba, where all the towns and villages along the border are connected to electricity. We talk about Mount Coffee Hydro. I was proud to be on a negotiation team that went to the United States and negotiated $250 million in development aid that was able to finalize and build Mount Coffee Hydro. I'm proud of the work we did with the CLSG, which is the Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea, where it was just commissioned last year, December, by this administration. But that is work that we negotiated and where we buy electricity from Cote d'Ivoire. We bring stable current into our country. That's something that's really going to transform our electricity sector. I'm proud to have worked with the European Union to have also brought in $60 million in transmission and connections from Mamba Point going all the way towards Painfield. So, the work that we do, and I always tell people, all the work that we're able to do to bring up electricity, to bring down the price of electricity. When I took over, when I went to LEC on the board, electricity was 55 cents per kilowatt hour. By the time I left, it was 33 cents. So we're able to bring the price down and also increase the amount of connections in the country. But with all that being said, it's still not good enough. And so that's why I like the Liberian people to understand. Yes, there have been some gains, but the CLSG is only one step. Mount Coffee Hydro is only one step. We need hundreds of steps to be able to take electricity to Sino so that when you go to your village, you can feel proud to go home and know that you were sleeping fan. That's what we have to be able to do. So there's so much work to be done. And that's why it's so important, the type of leadership that is in the country, people who know how to sit with other people in the international arena and negotiate in good faith. People have history and experience and the ability to be able to negotiate, people with experience. And so that's why I'm so proud to say that, of the people running for president, again, me not trying to really compare, but I feel like I'm the most qualified and most experienced in terms of negotiating actual government contracts. I'm proud to say that I've negotiated hundreds of millions of dollars to come into this country. And not one single time you'll ever hear somebody say that Dr. Clarence Moniba took one single dollar in bribes or even in thank you. So I'm proud of the work I've done. I'm proud of the work I did at LEC, but there's so much more work to be done.
And we'll come to that comparison because we have to, right? You're running against them. But one of the interesting posts that you also held is the head of the Diaspora Engagement Unit, the Philanthropy Secretariat, and the President Delivery Unit, which oversaw implementation of priority projects, right? So tell me about what that encompasses, and again, what were your accomplishments? Because the diaspora is so important to the development of the country.
It is, and that's an opportunity I think that we really need to take advantage of. People talk about the middle class in Liberia, and most middle class people in Liberia, unfortunately for us, live abroad, live in the United States, live in Europe. There's a growing number in Asia. But the idea was just to be able to get Liberians who have learned skills and opportunities outside of Liberia to be able to come back to Liberia and contribute, whether they are nurses, medical doctors, whether they are teachers, people like that, to be able to come and see how they can help to contribute to the development of Liberia, if they can bring investment into Liberia. When you talk about the head of the President's Delivery Unit, yes, I'm proud to say I oversaw a lot of major infrastructure projects in this country, which include going to China to help to negotiate $50 million to build the new airport terminal that we have here at RIA. It includes negotiating, helping to bring about the ELW to Coca-Cola Road that is still currently being built right now in Liberia. It includes helping to oversee some of the implementation of the Lofa Road that is currently being built. It includes the red light to Banga to Ganta Road that was completed. It includes the White Plains Water Facility plant that I oversaw implementation of. So it's all these different projects, which even include the Japanese Somalia Drive, help to oversee implementation on it. So again, I will continue to say that I'm very proud of the work that I've done here in Liberia, working in Liberia at all different levels, high levels of government as a cabinet minister, and then also as a technician. I'm proud of the work I've done, but I continue to say that is nowhere close to where we need to be. And that's why we need sound, competent people who can walk in any room in the world and negotiate on good faith on behalf of the Liberian people to ensure that the progress and the success we have in Liberia continues to grow so that we can catch up and even surpass countries such as Ghana and Kenya and Nigeria. There's no reason why Liberia should be in the state we are in right now when other African countries, our neighbors, are developing better than we are.
Right. And you've stressed or emphasized negotiating, right? Mm-hmm. A good way of saying I'm good at asking other people to give us money, but what
I'm good at convincing other people to give us money.
Right, and this is free money. But what's about creating the money yourself in Liberia?
Absolutely, and so we have to be able to do that, but we also have to change how we look at creating money in Liberia. The first thing when we look at our budget is it's, for a lack of better words, we squander a lot of money on very few people. Let's look at the House of Representatives. Let's look at the Senate. Let's look at the executive. The fact that Liberia is one of the poorest countries in the world when it comes to GDP, when it comes to government budget, and we pay our lawmakers up to $14,000. Yet the United States of America, the richest country in the history of the world, is also paying their lawmakers $14,500. You already know something is wrong. That's one. When you also look at different things such as what the Speaker's office gets, what the pro tem office gets, what the president office gets. And I need to look at the records again, but I'm told the president office gets over 15, 16, 17 million dollars, where we have hospitals who are only allocated $100,000. So when we talk about generating money in Liberia, first we have to look at how we spend the money that we already make in Liberia. And it's not fair. 15, 16, 20% of the economy of the budget is spent on less than 200 people. It cannot continue if we want to build Liberia. The second thing we have to be able to do is to attract foreign direct investment into this country. And that's where I think I would be so critical and key to transforming Liberia. Again, you talked about going out to negotiate, but what we can also go out to negotiate is business. But to be able to do that, to bring in foreign direct investment, we have to have a very clear vision on how we want to transform and move our country forward. So I'll give you an example. Let's look at agriculture, for example. To change the agriculture in this country, we also need billions of dollars. But yet we have to be able to do it because every single year we spend over $200 million that goes out of the country in terms of export to import. We export money to import rice. But Liberia is a country that we should not be in a position to import rice. We should be growing our own rice. If we were to grow our own rice, not only would the food price go down, but the employment rate of Liberians will go up because there will be actual Liberians in the farms, in the markets, in the stores selling. But then more importantly, and also you will see that we'll begin to export rice as well to increase money. Let's look at maritime. Liberia is the second largest country in the world in terms of maritime and ships carrying our flags. Yeah, how much do we really benefit when we look at maritime and what it brings to Liberia? We should be in a position to be able to demand that if Liberians actually on these different ships and actually on these different boats that are all around the country, that provides jobs, that provides actual income for the Liberian people. Let's look at technical and vocational training. We don't have enough people who are carpenters, who are professional carpenters and engineers and mechanics and plumbers and electricians. When I was at LEC at one time, we actually had to import 12 people who had the appropriate degrees and qualifications to work on a World Bank and EU project. 12 people from Ghana. Those are jobs that Liberians should be getting. So there's so many different ways that we can approach increasing revenue in Liberia, which also includes taxes. There's so much empty land and empty property that's here doing absolutely nothing for the people of Liberia. We have to be able to have people pay their taxes, pay their fair share in terms of developing the country. We have to be able to uplift all of these different things, including making sure that there are loan assistance programs for people who want to build homes in Liberia. We have to be able to make sure that the average market woman, an average teacher, or average civil servant can go to the bank and actually get a loan so that they can invest in housing and businesses. All of those things increases the economy. It builds our foreign direct investment. It builds our internal investment into the country so that we can ultimately raise more money, raise more capital for Liberia. Tourism is another thing. Let's go to Robbersport, which was voted one of the best places to surf in Africa. There is absolutely no reason why that place shouldn't be one of the number one premier tourism destinations in West Africa. So, if God was to bless me, I'll become president. I can assure the Liberian people one thing, that there will be so many international flights and people coming to Liberia to go to Robbersport, to go to Cape Mount, to go to Lake Piso, and invest in Liberia's tourism sector. That's restaurants, that's cars, that's hotels. So there's so many ways to increase Liberia's funding financially, not just asking and begging for money from USAID or from the EU or World Bank, but actually making Liberian people invest in our own future as well.
Thank you. And we'll come straight more to your plans and how you're going to do it. I want to set the stage here. You came in a campaign at a time that Unity Party, for example, was a kind of 40-year-old party has been running. The ANC, the Liberty Party, of course, have been campaigning for years. They have carved out a good portion of the voters, right? People have decided more or less which side they are on, even before you came in. So my question to you is, how do you demonstrate that you are better, or people should choose you more than those that have been running all the time? In other words, I'm already, voting for, let's say, Liberty Party. I'm already the base, and Dr. Moniba is coming. You said that people say you're coming in late. So let me give you an example. What makes you qualify or more qualified or better than Joseph Nimba, who was in power or who started in politics maybe when you were 2 or not even born, right? And he comes from the same county as you. What's your edge over Mr. Boakai?
I will let, all I can say to the Liberian people and to you in answering this question is that have all of the presidential candidates come on and discuss the issues like I'm discussing the issue. Let the Liberian people actually decide. Let everybody who is running from President Weah to Boycott to whoever else who is running, have them engage the conversation at this level and see if they can address the issues like how we're talking about the issues. And then you make your decision. Just because you voted for somebody in 2017 or 2011 doesn't mean that you should still vote for them. You have to listen to everybody's plans and policies.
Right, but how do you convince that voter to say, come on, my son?
By doing exactly what I'm doing right now, talking about the vision I have for Liberia.
Right, so how is that better than Boakai's vision? That's what the person who is already on Boakai's side will ask you.
It's up to them to decide. Let them talk about what he wants to do in agriculture. Let them talk about what he wants to do in education. Let them talk about what he wants to do in terms of healthcare. The only thing I can do for the Liberian people is to tell people not only just, but in detail, tell people what I want to do in the agriculture sector. There are 15 counties in this country. Every single county will be responsible to ensure that they produce something. So I'll give you an example, and I always do it in all the shows that go on. Lofa, Bong, Bapolu, Cape Mount, Bomi, counties like that. We say they are responsible to grow all of the rice in this country. We go to Nimba, we go to Grand Jide, and we tell them they will be responsible to grow cocoa and cassava. We go to the southeast, Pepe and Petapor. Counties like that, we have to be very specific. The only thing I can do, yes, there will be people who support other candidates. You're not going to get everybody to support you. But when the Liberian people say they want change, I'm not ashamed to say that I'm the very definition of change that we're talking about in Liberia. Somebody who is young with energy, somebody who has the education and experience, somebody who has the vision, and somebody who has the character to be able to change and develop this country. So it's up to the Liberian people to listen to everybody. Don't just close your ears and say, oh, I voted for somebody in 2017, so I'm not voting for anybody else. If that was the case, there would be no change in countries, because then people would say, since I'm my first time running, I should wait small. And I told you when we first started talking, Liberia is not in the position to wait small. So my only appeal to the people of Liberia is to not decide who you're voting for today in May. Decide who you're voting for after we have gone through the debates, after we have put forward our platforms, after we have shown that we have the energy and the educational background and the vision and the character to transform this country. Then you make a decision, because that's the only way you'll be acting fair to the Liberian people and the leadership that you want to put in.
Let me put it this way too. You meet a voter who is supporting Mr. Cummings, and you say, well, Mr. Cummings has the corporate experience, the corporate America experience, or you talk about your power or your experience to negotiate. Mr. Cummings will tell you, yes, this is what Mr. Cummings has been doing all his life, managing billion-dollar budget and talking to people. What would be your counter to that? What would show that you are better than the experience and skill set of Mr. Cummings?
What Liberia needs right now is somebody who has had experience in building actual infrastructure development projects. What Liberia needs now is somebody who has sat down and negotiated hundreds of millions of dollars for Liberia.
You say Mr. Cummings doesn't have that experience, for instance?
You're saying that. I'm telling you what Liberia needs, in my opinion. Okay. And like I'm saying, what Liberia needs is somebody who has had the experience to have brought in hundreds of millions of dollars for the people of Liberia when it comes to infrastructure development, when it comes to road development, when it comes to actual port at the airports and at the seaports and at the water facility plants and at electricity. Somebody who has experience in specific government negotiations. That's what I provide to the Liberian people. Again, if somebody says that somebody else has better experience, it's up to them to decide. But like I said, I've been blessed. I'll be the most educated presidential candidate in the history of Liberia, being blessed with 2 masters and a PhD. I'm somebody who has been able to, thankfully, had the experience at working as the consultant to the World Bank, as the consultant to the African Development Bank, as the consultant to the United Nations. I'm somebody who has worked at the Liberian Embassy in Washington, D.C., and I'm somebody who has served as Minister of State with our portfolio. I'm somebody who has served as Chairman of LEC. So we have to look at the practical experience in government and their ability to have driven government projects. So that's what I tell the Liberian people. Again, I'm very proud of the work I've done in my history at 44 years old. But I also know that there is a lot more to be done in Liberia, and I'm willing and up to the task to continue to change that. So for a lot of Liberian people who say, oh, that your first time running, I ask them, again, look at everybody's platform, look at the history, look at the sacrifices and the work we have done for the people of Liberia, look at our character, and then make your decision.
Talking about character, and I'm going to try for the last time, Councillor Gongolo is called the integrity and rule of law candidate. He carries the broom, how he's going to sweep corruption. Everybody, many people in Liberia know him as the poor man lawyer. How do you beat that? How do you compete with that record?
Listen, the only thing you can do is to compete with records such as that by showing I've had the opportunity to, I will say it again, to have negotiated hundreds of millions of dollars for Liberia. I've had the opportunity to have led 100 projects that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars for Liberia. Not one single person in this country, not one single person outside of this country will ever say that I took one single dollar as a bribe or as a thank you or as anything from any business, from any government, from anybody. So because of that, I ask people to look at my own character, look at, because it's we all want to fight corruption in Liberia. We all want to get rid of corruption in Liberia because it is actually killing the people of Liberia. When somebody is stealing millions of dollars, that means there's no medicine to go to JFK Hospital. So corruption is actually killing Liberians. So when you look at me, when I say about look at my character, look at my vision, look at the positions I've held in government. Again, you won't get somebody who's running for president right now who has had the opportunity to lead hundreds of millions of dollars in projects and come out with a clean record specifically. And so again, I'm very proud of what I've done. I'm proud of what I will continue to do for the Liberian people in terms of a clean record, no stigma, and carrying a vision that will transform Liberia.
Thank you. I like your intro video. I think you played it last time we were here. You talk about the fight against corruption and tribalism. So I want to gauge your understanding of those two, right? In your view, what causes corruption in Liberia?
There's two things. We do not implement and we don't hold people accountable. Corruption is in Liberia only simply because nobody goes to jail in Liberia. It's that simple. When you look at the last 5 years, and I ask you who has gone to jail in Liberia for corruption, you can't show nobody. 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. People do not go to jail in Liberia for corruption. So because nobody goes to jail in Liberia, corruption will continue. The only way corruption will end in Liberia is when we start to hold people accountable. Not only do people go to jail, but if you stole $500,000 from the Liberian people, you would pay that money back, or we'll go to your home, we'll go to your businesses, we'll go to all of your property and sell it back. Once we do that, Liberian people, you know how we are. They will say, hey, my hand inside that thing. They're taking corruption business serious now. We have to be able to fight corruption by simply putting people in jail and not doing this Liberian thing. You don't know the future. Let's lead a thing or forgive the man that the devil fool him. That's what's killing us. And the people of Liberia, we also support, unfortunately, corrupt people. We live in a country where somebody will steal, they admit to stealing, and then we support the person. We won't vote for the person to go to House of Senate. We won't vote for the person to become senator. Then we wonder why corruption continues. We continue to hail people who steal money because they will steal $100,000. They will go get $5,000 and say, at least the man could, he gave us some of the money. That's the mindset we have to change if we want to change this country.
But that's punishing corruption after it has occurred. What do you do to prevent it?
To prevent it, again, the only way to prevent it is to show that if you do steal, that you will be taking action on. You have to have better regulations. You have to increase the salary of police officers. For example, right now we pay police officers $120 a month, but yet we don't pay them for 2 or 3 months at a time. And then we expect them to stand under the sun. We expect them to stand under the rain and salute every minister car that is passing by, to salute every convoy that is passing by. How do you think the man is going to feed his family, his wife, and 2 or 3 children? How are they going to go to school? How are they going to go to hospital? So to prevent corruption, one, we have to put the mechanisms in place for people to understand that they will go to jail if they steal. But secondly, we have to make awareness of it. And then we also have to be able to pay people. We have to stop paying lawmakers $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 a month and increase the salary of our teachers. What do you think is going to happen when you're paying a teacher $40, $60 a month, and then test time coming? And then somebody goes to them and say, here, $100, pass me. What do you think will happen? So if we want to prevent it, yes, we have to increase the salary for the Liberian people. But just as importantly, we have to have people go to jail in Liberia. Go to jail because they stole the Liberian people money. It has to work hand in hand.
How about teaching, especially K through 12, ethics and anti-corruption, right? Because even here in America where I spend, it looks like I spend more time in America now than Liberia. I'm ashamed to say that, right? From preschool, we kids are taught how to stay in line with their turns, share their toys, say please and thank you. At the workplace, you have these classes and all that, right? We incorporate these ethic questions and anti-corruption questions in our recruitment processes. So you think that would make a difference? Because in 1980, people were killed because of corruption. Under Doe, he tied people in the street and beat them up for corruption. So just punishing corruption after it has occurred has not really done the trick.
No, but people were killed, but it was under the guise of indigenous American Liberians. So yes, it was used as corruption, but there were so many different factors that were included in that 1980 coup. When you talk about the fact of actual corruption, how it will stop is when somebody steals money, for example, you go to them, you do a clean and fair investigation. If they are found guilty, they go to jail and they sell their property. Then Liberian people will say, okay, it's serious. Like I said, over the last 15, 20 years, who has really gone to jail for corruption in Liberia? You cannot find it. In that United States that you say you've been living, you need to come back small. You've been living in America too long. we can't have you living more in America than in Liberia.
I know. I really want to live in Dudwoken, where I was born, but that's another story.
That in Sino again?
Yeah, and my dream job is to become the superintendent of Sino County.
Okay, excellent. So what we'll do is let God bless us with win, but we'll first look at all your qualifications and everything and make sure that you can really transform Sino and we can possibly put you there. But going back and on a more serious note to talking about corruption, yes, I do not think people have been punished in Liberia because of corruption.
And they are not being taught to about anti-corruption. The kids don't know. I talk to kids who, if a mother would tell a child, say, call your uncle and say, you're sick, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So are people really trained to know that this is wrong? This is ethical, this is unethical?
Well, no, we don't know it's wrong because I'll go back to it. Nobody goes to jail. We have a case in Liberia where 3 government officials were sanctioned by the U.S. government for alleged corruption. And as of today, there's no investigation by the Liberian government. There's no word from the Liberian government. Nobody knows anything. We just know that some of these people are running for office. So if I'm growing up, if I'm a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, or if I'm in the 12th grade, what do I see? I see, okay, but then that means, there's not even investigations. If I was, God forbid, I was one of those 3 people, I would be demanding an open investigation. I would be demanding for the U.S. government to open up all of their files to tell me why they're putting me on the sanctions list. Let them prove it. Let them prove it. So if we want to fight corruption in Liberia, we need to be able to train the young people of this country that corruption is bad. But everybody knows corruption is bad. The reason why corruption is bad in Liberia is because corruption is not punished. There's no 2 ways about it. I don't care how many times, people ask me this question. Corruption is bad in Liberia because corruption is not punished in Liberia. Corruption is bad in America, but the minute you steal something, you go to jail. If you're found, you go into jail. You will resign by the time you are even accused. And you know this. By the time you're even accused in America, you resign, pending investigation. And then you go through the process. If you're found guilty, immediately you go into jail. Yeah. That's what we have to do in Liberia.
Yeah, because the society, the value judgment of the society, right? What is it that we deem is wrong? But anyway, let's move on to tribalism, because you talk about that fight against tribalism. What is tribalism?
Let me give you a perfect example of what tribalism is in Liberia. When Lone Star is playing somebody from out of this country, go to SKD Stadium. The stadium will be almost empty. The last time, I forget who were playing, I think South Africa or somebody. I was walking to the stadium with my Lone Star jersey on. See people making fun of me and cussing me. Hey, they're coming to go beat you again. Oh, that embarrassment. You would take that jersey off. We don't truly love Liberia. A lot of people, we are more tribalistic than nationalistic. If Lofa was playing Sino, your county, if my county were playing your county, the field was going to be over plus. Yes, I know that Lofa was going to be Sino in the football game, but that's a different.
Just wartime victory there. But no, that never happened.
No, but yeah, before the war, when Lone Star was playing anybody, I mean, people would be so proud.
So people rooting for their county, you think that's tribalism?
No, What I'm trying to say is that it shows as evidence of the fact that people are more tribal. And it's very simple. When you look at the world, what was one of the first questions people asked? What tribe you from?
Right.
You were killed on that basis. So because of that, people began to have more pride in their counties, in their tribes, or protect their tribes more than they protected Liberia. That's what I'm saying. So right now, in today's date in Liberia, we are more tribalistic than nationalistic. And so that's why when somebody, a crime man, a bandy man, a kill person get a job in government, who do they want to hire first? They want to hire the people.
Let me give you two examples. If the people of Rufa overwhelmingly voting for Mr. Boakai, Grand Crew overwhelmingly voting for Mr. Weah, or is that tribalism? Another example, I want a vice president from Nimba because I want to get Nimba people vote for me. I want a Bassa running mate because I want Bassa people to. Are those tribalism?
Well, Dennis, to be honest with you, you're not treating me fair because the people of Lufako also overwhelmingly vote for me. So,
Right.
let's
Yeah.
I
was just using 2017, but you're right. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, but the whole idea is this. When we talk about tribalism, it has to be in a negative sense.
Exactly.
So when we talk about tribalism, it's very good. I'm very proud to say I'm a Bandi person. I'm a Bandi man. I'm very proud to tell people that. But it doesn't mean if somebody who is crew is more qualified for the job, I give it to the Bandi man still. Then that's tribalism. So what we have to be able to do in our country, yes, people will vote on tribal lines. It happens in the US, it happens in Europe where, oh, you're from this region that could possibly bring votes. I'm not saying don't identify with your tribe. I'm saying don't discriminate because of your tribe. And unfortunately, in Liberia, that's what we do right now. And so we have to change that. Again, when we want to say we want to change this country, we have to change everything we have been doing in Liberia because the Liberia we have, I will say it again, it's not good enough for the people of Liberia. We have to change it. So we have to be more nationalistic. When you go to Ghana, what do they say? Ghana is for Ghanaians. They are clear about it. Ghana is for Ghanaians. They're not saying Ghana is for the Asante tribe or this tribe. They say Ghana is for Ghanaians. Liberia also must be for Liberians. And so we have to work like that. We have to employ like that. As long as the person is a Liberian, they are competent and qualified, they must be the ones to get the job. They must be the ones to get the opportunity. The development we have in this country, if we are building roads in the southeast or if we are building roads in Cape Mount, the western region, we have to also go to the southeast. We have to make sure development is all around so that all of the tribes can prosper.
Right. Let's look at your plans. You have very good plans or vision. In the website, I read it, and I don't expect you to put all the details. But let's start with the money, because everything that you have said required money. Even if you don't pay the entire legislative branch, you are only saving a couple of millions. You said in one of your interviews that it requires billions.
Billions.
Right. So even if we eliminate the president's office, the legislative office, and don't give them any money, we still don't have enough to fund just agriculture or education. How you get the money for these things?
That's why you need somebody with vision. That's why you need somebody who can walk into any room and negotiate in good faith on behalf of the Liberian people to bring in those billions of dollars. That's why you need from all over the world. All over the world. Listen, every country has developed the same way.
But is that an economic policy to say, let's go and ask people for money?
No, it's called foreign direct investment. That's the economic policy, to increase foreign direct investment. And the only way to do that, if you leave the country and go and bring investment into Liberia, every country does that. Ghana does that. Cote d'Ivoire does that. Every country develops with foreign direct investment. Even the United States develops with foreign direct investment. What is stopping us from bringing in foreign direct investment is that we need the type of leadership that can walk into any room in the world and sit down with any president or any CEO or any business-minded person and be able to say, I represent the people of Liberia. I have the experience and the skills to be able to negotiate and show a vision. Money is not the problem in the world. I'm telling you, sometimes people can say, what do you mean? Money is not the problem in the world. It's a lack of vision. It's a lack of leadership. It's a lack of people being able to walk into any room and convince a business person to come and invest in Liberia because they will be protected by government, because the facilities in Liberia will be there to support them. So these are the things we have to be able to focus on. We have to be able to bring in foreign direct investment into Liberia. We have to be able to bring in tourism dollars into Liberia. We have to be able to build the skills of Liberian people so that we can export logs and not just logs, but furnitures. We have to be able to export not just raw rubber, but buckets and slippers. That's the transition that we have to make.
Yeah. And President Salif was elected on the basis of who the international community would trust to give money to. And we all, saw how that worked out.
I mean, money came into the country. There will be a lot of discussion about how it was used, but money came into the country. There was a lot of foreign direct investment. There were a lot of NGOs into the country that were investing and building and hiring Liberian people. So money came into the country. The question for some people would be like, how was it spent? So it's not that we have to stop money from coming into the country. We need to have people who bring money into the country, and then we apply it better. And so that's just the only thing. But no, money came into the country because the world wanted to see her succeed. She knew how to speak. She could go around the world, and people actually listened to her. People actually respected her. And that's why money came into the country. That's what we need to go back to as a nation.
Right. So it doesn't stop there by bringing money in the country, right? You still have to do something.
Well, and that's why it's so important to have a plan and a vision. If we look at the previous administration, the first 6 years were focused on disarming people, setting up institutions before they transition into really building infrastructure and hospital and roads. My job from day one would be to ensure that we bring in the money necessary to connect all of the county capitals in Liberia by paved road. My job would be to make sure we bring in 1 million solar kits so that the people in your village in Sino will be able to have electricity every night. My job will be able to make sure that JFK and Tapita hospitals are two of the best hospitals in West Africa by bringing in foreign direct investment, by ensuring that the Liberian doctors are trained up to par, so that Liberians no longer have to leave Liberia to go to Ghana, to go to India, to go to Europe for medical treatment, but they can get this medical treatment right here in Liberia. Then you know that we have a serious country. When our Liberian citizens, when government officials don't have to leave the country for treatment, when they can stay right here in country and be safe and secure that they will get the proper treatment, then you know we have a different and a serious country.
And so let's go to agriculture, because I don't want to take I think we talk about the time when we're starting. I want to be very mindful of that. Mm-hmm. Agriculture, you talk about creating those zones, right? Mm-hmm. I was reading, some documents say these things were tried before, but they couldn't be sustained on a development.
Well, that's a key. It couldn't be sustained. But again, just because you're walking and you stub your toe doesn't mean you stop. You never walk again. So because it couldn't be sustained under Tubman doesn't mean it would not be sustained under a Moniba-led administration.
How do you sustain them?
How you sustain it is very simple, by making sure that the Liberian people have the skills to sustain them. It wasn't sustained, and I really don't know too much the detail of what was done under Tubman. But the only way to sustain agriculture development is, one, have mechanized farming in the country. We need to have proper irrigation in this country. And then just as importantly, we need to have Liberians who have the skills. We cannot import people from Kenya, people from South Africa to run the mechanized farm, to run the irrigations and think it will be sustained. After 2-3 years, those people will go back. But if we bring Liberians to run these things, to do these farming techniques and build our farming system, so we support our agriculture. I said before, $200 million was exported out of Liberia to import rice. Imagine if that $200 million is used to train Liberian farmers, to grow Liberian farms, to provide loans to Liberian farmers. Where do you think it will be? It will be forced to be sustained, because you're actually truly building the infrastructure of the country and the foundation of the country, and not bringing in foreigners to do it for us. So it will be sustained under my administration, simply because, again, we know how to bring development into Liberia. And more importantly, we also know and understand how to sustain development in Liberia.
Right. You also said, buy what you grow, right?
Absolutely. Buy what you grow.
And what you grow. That's a nice phrase. Someone told me or reading said, oh, this is a sexy phrase. But already there is a demand for products on the Liberian market that the farmers themselves cannot meet that demand, right?
Mhm.
How do we motivate them? What do we do so that they can meet that demand?
No, the reason why the farmers can't meet that demand is simple because most of the farmers in Liberia, they farm like it's 1847. A lot of people in Liberia, you get in the hook, they're walking around digging, hoping that it's going to rain. That's why I talked about mechanized farming. The minute we impose mechanized farming into Liberia, you will see the development and the growth of products in Liberia will grow exponentially. It will grow limitless because we know the soil in Liberia is rich. We know it rains 6 months out of the year in Liberia. We know we have so much land. So if we introduce mechanized farming, then all of a sudden, all of these products will be growing. We'll have surplus to be able to share and sell outside of Liberia. So that's what we need to do. Mechanized farming. We need to do proper irrigation where we can, we can store water. We make sure all of our plants and all of our fruits and all of our food crops are getting enough water to supply their growth. So we'll sustain it. And we have to change the fact of Liberian farmers farming like it's 1827. It's just not fair to the Liberian people.
But Dr. Moniba, mechanized farming is like a long shot, right? It's very expensive. One
It's,
tractor, just to operate one tractor, right? You first
Mhm.
need people to be trained. Things are computerized these days. So they roll the tractors. So if that tractor breaks down, are we going to send for engineers in China, Italy to repair? So this very expensive. What are some of the short-term things that you can do for food production, for food security in the short
Well,
term?
the short term things you have to do is start to make sure that you have mechanized farming. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Yes, you have to be able to teach the Liberian farmers. Again, Liberian farmers know how to farm at a small scale. We don't know how to farm at the large scale. So there's no two ways around it. That's why I go back to the idea that you need a leader in Liberia here who can go to Thailand and Indonesia, countries that have the skills and experience to be able to grow large scales of rice, to be able to bring those machines in, to be able to bring those people in so we can train thousands of Liberian people. And so that's why it's so important. I will continue to go back to the fact we need people who have a vision. We need people who have the ability to go out and bring money into the country so that we can start to sustain our own growth.
Do out the green revolution. And again, I want to stress that because I've spoken with a couple of Liberian or agricultural scientists. Say, mechanized farming is expensive. Why don't we start with something small, like extension workers, who will
We,
go and train these farmers how to preserve their seed and do all that, right? Because if a farm, and when I was in, when you plant, sometimes half of the seeds you put in the ground are not viable, right? But they don't know, they put everything there. So how do we work with farmers to at least bring their yield up to an appreciable level? Because before we go to mechanized farming, it's expensive
I'm,
now.
I'm not, I'm not saying that we don't or will not do that. What am saying is that if we are going to transform Liberia, we need mechanized farming. It's that simple. I'm not saying we do not have to take those steps. I'm not saying that we should not take people to be able to make sure that the seeds are properly planted and they are properly watered. But if we want to transform our economy, that's the key I'm trying to make. If we want to transform our economy so that we can stop depending on foreign direct investment, we need mechanized farming. There's no two ways about it. So yes, we'll do all of those small trainings, but that's just we think too small in Liberia,
Yeah.
to be frank with you. We think too small. If somebody come and do something small, the whole country, oh yeah, yeah. No, we have to be able to understand that we in Liberia, we can make Liberia the greatest country in Africa, but we have to start to think big. Therefore, we need a leader who has the strength, the energy, the experience, and the ability to make Liberians think big. We have to be able to talk about when we want to say we want to renovate JFK, the goal should be to make JFK one of the best hospitals in West Africa, not just to make sure JFK got enough current. It's not good enough for the Liberian people. When we
I
talk about
agree.
building a highway from Monrovia all the way to southeast, the southeastern highway, it can't just be two lanes. We have to be talking about four-lane highways where we have lights. All I'm saying is that we have to start to think bigger than what we have in Liberia. We have to start to be more ambitious. in our dreams and hopes for Liberia. We have to start saying that Liberia will have some of the best trained mechanics. Liberia will have some of the best trained carpenters. That's the vision we need. It's going to take a while to get there, but we have to start to have that dream now, and we have to start to put the building blocks in place to have that dream right now.
What would be your educational policy? And do you agree with outsourcing our K through 12 education?
When you say outsourcing, meaning bringing people in to be able
to giving it to Bridge, or to do it. We outsource it.
I think there's a few ways to I was in government when they brought Bridge into the country. I think it had some successes. Some changes have to be made, but at the end of the day, it all boils down to this. Bridge and those institutions were preaching accountability. They made sure that teachers were paid better. They made sure that teachers were showing up on time. They made sure that people understood the curriculum that was supposed to be taught. They made sure that there was enough facilities and everything for the students of that school. That's what we have to be able to do for the entire country. So yes, we need to outsource some of the schools here, but we also need to, more importantly, ensure that the Liberian teachers who are in the classrooms have the capability to teach. Once again, I would tell you that a teacher cannot go to school hungry, unpaid for 2 or 3 months and expect that person to teach. It's not going to happen. They have to be paid better. They have to be paid on time. They have to be given books. Sometimes I've been touring the country for the last 2 years. When you enter some schoolhouses, there's no sign of it being a school. There's no library. There's no science lab. There's no benches. So how is it a school? Just because you write school on it? So when we talk about changing and transforming the education sector in Liberia, we have to be able to train our teachers better. We have to be able to have libraries. When you're talking about early on in first grade, second grade, third grade, going up to the fourth grade, the early childhood. But then when you go to 11th grade, 12th grade, we have to be able to not only train our high school students how to read and write, but we also have to be able to make sure that they have some type of technical and vocational skill. And that's the key. We have to be able to graduate people who are not only high school degree holders, but they are carpenters, they are plumbers, they are electricians, they are mechanics. These people will be able to build Liberia's economy, build their own lives, and build the development of our country.
What do you think is wrong with our K through 12 curriculum?
Well, let's look at when we look at the budget for education, it's very clear. I think it's up to 90% of the budget in education goes towards salaries. It doesn't go towards making sure that there's food in school. It doesn't go towards making sure that there are proper bathrooms for our children to go to school. It doesn't go to make sure there are proper books, computers. You go to a child, again, in your village in Sino, and ask a fifth grader to turn on a computer. I seriously doubt they will even be able to recognize a computer. So what are they truly learning? So when you ask me the question, what is wrong with our K through 12, it's simply that we are teaching
the curriculum.
The curriculum. Well, again, the curriculum applies to the same thing. You're teaching somebody in the third grade in River G, but they don't have books. So what are they really learning from the curriculum? They don't have books. They go home. There's no electricity home. So they're not learning. They're not doing extra reading. They go to the library. There's no books there. So the curriculum might be good in theory, on paper, but in practicality, they're not learning. They're not learning.
There is a common Liberian saying, that goes like this: we sit on the old mat to plant the new mat. When it comes to governance in Liberia, what is Dr. Moniba going to do with the old mat? Sit on it or throw it away and start from scratch altogether?
No, we can never throw our old people away. The only thing we want to tell our old people is to give us chance now, let our generation show what we can do for the Liberian people.
So you're going to sit on the old mat and plant the new?
You forced to, like I told you before when I first started, the most important person to me is my mother, she's getting older now, but, I take her advice very keenly. She has so much wisdom. So we can never throw the old mat away. We can never throw our older people away. The reality is now that our generation, the people under the age of 45, are very desperate for change. We have not been happy with the past, and so we want to change the future. But not only do we want a seat at the table, it's not good enough right now for our generation. We also want a voice at the table. And that's what we are fighting for. That's what we are pushing for. And that's why I'm running for president, to make sure that my generation has a say in how Liberia is built, has a say in how Liberia is developed.
Thank you. I met a very wise man from Barclayville. We call that Klipo. So this man from Klipo told me, he said there are two groups of Liberians. He said they are like one group who ate the seed that were given to them, another group planted the seed, and then I told him I added one more group. I said another group was not given the seed. So, Dr. Moniba, if you look at Liberia, you have three groups now. How will you, if on a percentage basis, do you think you have more people who didn't get seed, more people who ate their seed, or more people who planted their seed?
Most people have not gotten the seed.
Okay.
We cannot blame, in Liberia, in the world, in anywhere, for anybody to succeed, for 99% of the people in life to succeed, no matter what country they're from. They just need an opportunity. So therefore, when we talk about opportunity, that means we have to have given the people the seed to plant. And then even if they eat it or plant it, it's up to them. But we have to give them the seed, give them the opportunity. We just talked about education. We have students who are in first grade, second grade, third grade, who don't even know how to read and write. We have people who are graduating high school today, with no exaggeration, who can barely read and write. So therefore, we never even gave them the option. Like you said, and to your point, we haven't given 70 to 80% of the people in Liberia the option of having a seed. All they have is hope. When I first moved back to Liberia in 2012, I would never forget what somebody told me. He was talking and he was saying, "Oh, let God bless you so that you can help me." That means they had no opportunity to help themselves, because they were waiting for God to bless me so I could give them. That person should be saying, let me have the opportunity to show the Liberian people what I can do. And we don't have that. So we haven't given the Liberian people the seed. Yes, few people have taken the seed and eaten it, corrupt people, disingenuous people. But at the end of the day, the Liberian people, we truly don't have the opportunity.
Thank you. And you like that seed example, right?
I'll be on the radio tomorrow. I will use it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a conversation with Dr. I almost call your father's name, Dr. Clarence Moniba. And if you want to join the conversation, we don't have much time. Please call 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403 #. Doc, before I bring in the callers, when are we expecting to see your vice presidential running mate? And who exactly are you looking for?
First, let me say this. I feel very honored every time somebody calls or makes a mistake and calls me Dr. Harry Moniba. Because to be frank with you, the reason I'm doing what I'm doing is because I want to finish his dream, and I'm putting my shoes in his footsteps. So every time somebody makes a mistake to call me Dr. Harry Moniba, I'm very proud of it, because he always told me, he said, Clarence, I do not have money to leave you, but I will leave you with a name and legacy that you will be proud of, that nowhere you'll go to in Liberia that anybody will ever say that Dr. Harry Moniba stole money, Dr. Harry Moniba did something bad to somebody. So I'm very proud of that. So honestly, I feel very honored when people call me or make a mistake and call me Dr. Harry Moniba. But with that being said, I tell people when we are looking for a running mate, we need people who have integrity. We need people who are serious about fighting corruption. We need people who have experience in government, but in a positive way. We need people who love Liberia more than they love themselves. We need people who are willing to build instead of break. And so we have been talking to several people, but we are not going to rush into it. It's not a race. There's a deadline to find our vice presidential candidate, but we are going to find the right person who we believe can truly jump into day one and be prepared, have an understanding of government, and be able to lead this country.
Thank you. Let me bring in two callers. I have one last question for you. Our first caller here is Mr. Elvis Morris. Elvis, you are live. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Jai, and hello to you, Dr. Moniba.
How are you?
Before I didn't ask my question, your father is somebody who I have, kind regards for. I think he was a common presence during the dual administration, and for we from Grandview, we really like your father, and we appreciate him for
Thank you
sharing
so much.
as well as he did.
Thank you so much.
Let me ask you. I know you're a smart guy. We all appreciate you, especially bringing that young energy, but also your brilliant mind to the political space. But Dr. Moniba, when you talk about the bigger thoughts, thinking bigger than Liberia, which is wonderful. The problem there is the money, the lack of resources. And I think we always have to start with where's the money coming from? How are we going to raise the money to implement, or even conceive some of these big plans that you're talking about, which is necessary, but money it will be the catalyst that will drive those plans forward and bring them into fruition. So please explain to us how you raise money in order to accomplish your goals that you have for the country. Thank you so much for being on the platform. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Dennis, I can address that right now, right?
Yeah, let me break him. Okay, yeah, address that because the guy that is coming with the question, he like a big book man. So I know the question will be long.
Okay. No, but your caller just asked a very interesting and very true question. Where are we going to get the money from to do this? But the first thing I always tell people is that first we have to have a vision. We can't go look for money if we don't have a vision. And the vision for me, the vision for my administration will be very, very clear. Liberia must be self-sufficient in food, and we'll do this by ensuring that every single county in this country have food production zones, have farms, but then also have value addition places. So that's the vision. Where we'll find the money is that now it provides businesses around the world an opportunity to invest. Where we have to have the vision is to know that within 6 years, we must pave all of the county capital roads in Liberia. Once we have that vision, then we go out to look for the money. But if we sit down and say, oh, there's no money to think big, then we'll never think big. If we sit down and say, oh, there's no money to ensure that our students are not properly educated or don't have 2 years of technical and vocational training, there's no money, then we will just sit down. I think the most important thing for a leader is to have a vision. That's it. Once a leader has a true vision, they will inspire their people to go out. They will inspire businesses to want to come and invest in Liberia. It will inspire other world leaders to help support your vision because everybody wants to be part of a success story. And so that's what I'm saying. The most important thing we need in Liberia right now are leaders who think big, who can instill and inspire confidence. And that's what I truly believe that I offer to the Liberian people.
Thank you. Let me bring in our next caller. That's Mr. Atman Salif. Atman Salif is right here on Focus.
You see the book, man?
Yeah, he's our governance consultant. So he's coming with governance question. Mr. Salif, go ahead, sir.
Dr. Moniba, don't listen to him about the book, man. So thank you for this conversation. I am really enjoying it. I remember when I worked for the mission USAID in Liberia. I saw you from across the table and in the room, energy, and so some of what you're saying, I resonate with me, and I saw a little tiny bit of it, and I remember. But so I don't want to speak to the substance of your vision, the ideas that you shared and that you have on your website and so on, because that's good. I really like them. I've been pushing other candidates that show me the how. Don't just say, oh, we'll do this, we'll do this. You really have to demonstrate how that will happen. How will you grow budget? How will you grow tourism? How will you bring FTI, so forth and so on. And I think that so far you're the candidate who I've seen do this and do it better than others. So I want to ask, my question is about electoral campaign politics, campaign organization, and, gaining traction, ground game, to win, so that you win. Because, look, this, campaign politics is about having a very sophisticated campaign organization, staff of people who are competent and capable, who know what they're doing, who know about politics, who know about raising funds, who know about messaging and media, communication, selling the candidate, the vision, and so forth and so on. And then you, a candidate, to set you up for success, you go and deliver the message to different audiences, segments, and, do your data analysis, understand your win number, and win. Because it can be, a vision is dead if the candidate doesn't win to be able to have the opportunity to govern. So my question to you is, we don't know. Maybe I don't know about your campaign organization, and people are asking that you came late to the game, and which I disagree with because I've been seeing you around for over 2 years now, sort of running and talking about running and so forth. So tell us about do you have a campaign organization? Who do you have? Like, for example, a campaign manager, a well-written plan that systematically lays these things out and shows a pathway to victory. And then you can govern and all these ideas, and you can implement them for Nigeria and the Nigerian people.
Absolutely. And so the whole idea of what we have to be able to do is, before you can govern, you have to win an election. And so, I'm proud to say over the last year and a half, we've been to almost every county. We have cells, we have leadership in almost every county at the district level, at the community level. We have thousands of volunteers. I'm so proud to say that the generation under me, the young people of this country, when they see me and they hear the message, they want to volunteer, they want to come on board, they want to help. So I'm very confident in our ground game. For example, when I say we have thousands of people going door to door, we literally have thousands of people going door to door. We have people all over the country who are in their villages, speaking to their mothers and their fathers, to tell them that change is possible. Change is something that Liberian people, we must be able to have. And so I'm proud of what we've been having. We have a strong team. We're going to be unveiling our entire campaign team very shortly, along with the vice presidential candidate, where we can show to Liberian people the new face of Liberia. Liberian people are continuing to say, if we want change, our candidacy, our presidency is the true definition of change in a positive way. There's one thing to change, but then change goes, we've had experience for change. But it's another thing to change in the positive. It's another thing to be able to develop and build the country and transform the country. And so we are going to be unveiling our entire campaign team along with our vice presidential candidate very soon, that I'm sure and I'm confident that the Liberian people will be very proud of. But we have thousands of people all over the country, even in Sino. We have people all over. We have people in River G. We have people in River Cess. We have people in Lofi, in Nimba, and Bon, all over the country. We have strong people in Babalu, in Cape Mount. I mean, just, the list goes on. I have to say Margibi now because I just got off the phone meeting with people in Margibi, so I could not have left them out. But we have people all over the country going door to door, preaching the message of the new Liberia. I'm proud of our team.
My last question before you wrap up is, from the time of President Salif till now, there's always this competition. Oh, this never happened Ellen time, or this was never done and we're doing it now. From the time of President Salif till now, what are the changes that you're seeing? Is it getting better? Things getting worse? Or there were things that were working fine under Salif and now they are not? There were things that Mr. Weah has improved on, built on, or that have gotten worse under Mr. Weah? Let's do some comparison here.
I'll give you two examples of comparisons and show you why I'm running for president. The Lofa Road that's being built from Banga to Salaye, Konya, going further. I'm proud to say I helped to negotiate with the contractors. That road should have been finished in 2020. We are in 2023 and it's still ongoing. That's one example. The second example, the ELWA to Coca-Cola Road, a road that I'm proud to say I helped to identify and source the funding, the $15 million from ELWA Junction all the way to Coca-Cola. That road should have been completed in 2019. We are in 2023 and it's still unfinished. So that's just two examples of why I'm running for president. I'm not running for president just because I'm sitting down and say, maybe it'll be fun. I'm getting plenty of gray hairs, Dennis, from running for president. But the whole idea is we're running for president because I believe and I trust and I have the confidence that immediately upon taking office, we will do better in uplifting the lives of the Liberian people. So that's why I'm running for president.
I don't know if I'm not sure if you answered my question of the comparison. So has Mr. Weah done worse? Has he taken the country beyond where Ellen left it, or we've gone backwards?
I answered the question in this sense. I'm running for president because I truly believe Liberia can do 10 times better than what we're experiencing right now. That's why I'm running for president. So, it would be very difficult for me to sit down and say,
All right.
Ellen used to wake up at 6 in the morning, this person. But, I'm running for president because I believe our country needs to change direction fundamentally. We need better leaders at all levels of government. We need better accountability. We need better vision for the country. And we need all of these things, and we need it now. And that's why I'm running for president, because when you look at all of the candidates I feel like I offer the best opportunity from an educational standpoint, from an experience standpoint, from an energy standpoint, from a vision standpoint, and the ability to go out and get what we need in Liberia. I feel like I offer the Liberian people the best option to lead this country immediately, not in 2029, but now in 2023, going into 2024. And again, that's why I'm running for president.
Thank you. Let me take two comments here just to be respectful of people that are writing. Elder Joseph Wakokoro say, please ask Dr. Moniba to point to a scenario where the old can voluntarily step aside from the political ambition for the young.
The thing about life and the thing about power, the thing about leadership is that nobody is ever going to give you something. You have to fight for it. You have to work for it. And so that's what we are doing right now. It would be nice if the older generation passed it over to us. But, listen, we are willing to fight for what we want in Liberia. Our generation is willing to fight, not with guns and not with weapons and not with petrol bombs, but with our intellect, with our energy, with our experience, with our vision. And so, the old people will not give it to us. We have to fight for it. And I pray to God and I trust that the young people will rally around and we will lead this country. Again, we don't want a seat at the table no more. We want a voice at the table.
Sam Wallow say, who's funding your campaign right now? Thousands of people going door to door. Where you get money from?
Well, I'm hoping that Sam will also be one of the people to contribute if he's Liberian. Listen, there's people who are committed to the process. There are people who are going around sacrificing, not eating, going door to door because they believe in a better Liberia. And so we've had so many people, like just a few days ago, we had I felt so good. Market women actually came and gave me some money. It wasn't much. I'm not going to lie to you, but the fact that they are actually doing this, it lets me know that there's hope for Liberia. So, I've been blessed. I have some very good friends who are helping me out. I have a lot of businesses in Liberia, people who are supporting our efforts for awareness. And so there's everybody who wants to see a better Liberia. So I think his name was Sam. Please go to the website, Moniba2023.org, and contribute to the cause. I'm proud of what we're doing. And one thing I can assure you is that you will never say your money went in vain, because we'll never do anything to disrespect the position that we're running for, and we'll never do anything to embarrass the people who are supporting us.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you for your time. I want you to conclude now and your parting comments. And look in the camera and talk to Liberian voters, including those in Paye, Lofa, those in Glade, Nimba, Bokongire, and also right along the border there in the Kavala.
Mm-hmm. No, of course, I've been talking for over an hour, but the one thing I want people to remember is one word: to believe. That's it. We have to believe that the Liberia we have right now is not good enough for us. We have to believe that there will be a group of leaders who will come to Liberia and transform this country. We have to believe that Liberia tomorrow will be better than what we have today. Once we as Liberians believe that our country is the greatest country in Africa, then it would take us as Liberians. Nobody else is going to come develop this country for us. Nobody else is going to do it. So if we believe that we deserve better in this country, then we will not start to say, oh, you came late. No, You will start to listen to the ideas and the ideology of the leaders who want to lead this country. You will start to listen to my plan and my vision. You will start to look at my background. This election is about three things. It's about the past, and we have been very clear that the past has not been good enough for the Liberian people. It's about the present today. And even today, we understand that the people in Liberia are hurting. And it's also about the future of this country, a future where we hope and pray that we'll be able to self-feed ourselves. We'll be self-sufficient in our staple food of rice, a future where people will be graduating from high school with technical and vocational knowledge and training, a future where we'll be able to take our fathers and our mothers to hospitals, our sons and daughters to hospitals, and know that there will be properly trained doctors and nurses with medication in electrified hospitals and clinics all around the country. It's a future where the people of Liberia will have access to loans so that they can build homes and be able to build businesses. We are talking about a future for Liberia that we deserve, and that future must start now, in 2023, not in 2029. The future we want in Liberia is right now. So I'm asking everybody to join me in our efforts, in our presidential aspirations to ensure that Liberia is better tomorrow than what we have today. Then I really appreciate the opportunity to have spoken on here, talk to the people who are listening. I know it'll be on YouTube and other platforms, but I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much.
And thank you so much for joining us and expressing this. We hope to have you back after your VP and all the campaign structure in place so that we can talk more. Really appreciate your time. Want to thank our viewers also for watching, and even those who will watch later. Here at Focus on Liberia, we never close any broadcast without playing the song that says we are all Liberians. Whether you are voting for Dr. Moniba, you are voting for Dr. Weah, or you're voting for Ambassador Bwaka, whoever your pick is, we are all Liberians. What is incumbent upon all of us is to do our very best to make our country the glorious land of liberty. Join us at 4 for another program called On Point. We are all Liberians. Good day and God bless you.
We are